Today we're talking with Brandon Blais, owner of Brandon Blais Electric. Brandon is a master electrician with over 6 years in business. His business is booming and he has the reviews to prove it. Let's find out about a day in the life of an electrician and the excellent salary that goes with it.
Sure, even a helper right now could start at $15 an hour.
Okay.
As long as somebody is willing to learn and really willing to get out there and pay attention to materials and the way things are done, we tend to do the same type of things over and over. So once somebody picks up on that, they can really just take off from there. Once you start learning materials and the way that we do things, then of course you want to get paid more money. It's very easily to make more. A qualified electrician can make upwards of $20 to $30 an hour.
So Brandon, thanks for joining us today on this rainy day. We know the work never stops, rain or shine. What does a typical week look like for you? Are you typically doing the same service for clients week to week, or does it vary on the service that you're providing?
A lot of it is the type of year. When we have hurricanes and stuff, we get a lot more of the generator type service work, surge protectors and things like that. In between, throughout the rest of the year, we usually do small remodels, maybe panel changes, things like that. We do a variety of different things, even landscape lighting.
So one of the reasons that we're here with you is because of the stellar reviews that you have from your clients online. Can you tell us what's the difference between a good electrician and a bad electrician?
Absolutely. A good electrician does everything per code.
Okay.
It really takes somebody who pays attention to detail and really just wants to make sure that the job is done correctly and safely.
So it was talking about bad electricians. In the time that you've been doing this job, what have you seen out there as far as like code violations or safety violations that stick out in your mind?
A lot of the violations we see are open splices where people are just connecting wires up in an attic or maybe burying power inside behind a drywall.
Okay.
And those are never a good thing to do. They can cause fires and other hazards as well.
Sure, and then you go in and you fix those in cases where you've seen that happen?
Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of homes have home inspections and stuff when people buy new homes, and so they'll write up a report and we're able to fix those and make them safe for the families.
Well, going back to the beginning, can you tell us a little bit about what you were doing before you became an electrician, and then what got you interested in this trade specifically?
Yeah, so before I was actually into a little bit of automotive work. I went to automotive school. My father had owned an electrical business prior, so I grew up in it.
Okay.
But really just wanted to get back into it because I saw a need for electricians and to make more money.
What was the hardest part of getting started in the industry?
Hardest part was really to focus on schooling and the education that's needed to become an electrician. A lot of people are good and stuff with their hands, and that's much needed in the electrical industry.
Sure.
But I think knowledge is power. So really just focusing in on schooling and getting that initial education first, and then everything else from there kind of comes together.
And you have your master's electrician license. What does that entail, and are there other licenses that are required to be an electrician?
Absolutely, yeah. The other license below electrical master's is electrical journeyman's.
Okay.
So that requires going to school. Like in Florida, we have a 4-year apprenticeship program where you can go to school at nights and work during the day. And that will get you to the point where you're able to take a journeyman's test.
Okay.
After so many years of being in the trade and having that schooling, then you're able to qualify for a master's license and then go and take that.
Going back to getting started with being an electrician, besides the knowledge and the licensing, a lot of people say that getting their first client is the hardest part of starting any new business. What was the experience like for you, and do you remember what your first big job was that you did?
I do remember, yeah, it was a job that required a lot of thinking, and it required a lot of hard work. And of course, with any job, you want to make sure you satisfy the customer. So there's a lot of pressure, to make sure that things went right and you
Sure.
did the job the right way and safely. So that job was a landscape lighting job where I had to run landscape wire a long distance.
Okay.
So you had to do the proper voltage drop calculations and stuff to make sure at the end of the line that you have the right voltage and it's not too low so everything would work correctly.
One of the other things besides acquiring your first client that people find difficult is the process of quoting new jobs. What system have you developed that you use to give price quotes for new jobs?
First off, you want to make sure that you're doing everything per code. So sometimes it requires going back to the code book and making sure you're using the right materials or the right wiring methods to do those jobs.
Okay.
Then it's really just listing out all the material needed, and then as well as thinking about labor and how many man hours a job will take.
And as you've done that over the years, is there any way that you've improved the process from when you started and figuring out quoting prices to people to where you are now?
Absolutely. When you first look at a job, sometimes you think that you can get it done very efficiently and very quick. But
Sure.
over the years, working depending on who your employees and stuff are and what type of obstacles and stuff are in the way, you really have to plan accordingly to make sure that if something does go wrong, you're able to cover your cost and what time it takes. So it's really changed depending on how many workers you have or what the qualifications of your workers are.
So Brandon, we talked a little bit about acquiring your first big customer. What was the process like of going from acquiring that first customer to the point where you're successful in your business today?
Well, the first customer, was just a one-man type of job.
Sure.
As I picked up another job and had another phone call of another job that saw the type of work that we did, I needed another electrician. So
Okay.
after I hired another electrician, I was able to expand the business a little bit, take on a little bit more work. It's always good to have an extra hand to do
Sure.
the job. So being in business 6 years now, we're really able to expand what we do by having more people come aboard. So I think the more electricians that we have, the more we can expand the business.
And can you tell us a little bit about how long did that take before you felt like you were successful from the point when you started to the point where you felt like, okay, I have a real business that can support me right now?
The first couple years is really just business growing pains, is really establishing the clientele, having
Sure.
the reviews and stuff that are going to be able to support the business. Once you get a couple reviews, a lot of people look at those reviews and they'll want to have work done or have you come out and quote a price. So I think having the reviews of the company is very important.
Sure.
Having the guys who can do the quality of work and a good job to get those reviews is even more important.
And can you tell us a little bit about financial management? How did you, in those lean first years, how do you survive as a small business to make it to the point where you can be successful?
It is challenging at first, is definitely staying within your means and budget,
Sure.
making sure that you're taking care of your overhead, really just finding what niche that you can make profit and
Okay.
what you're good at in electricity, be able to continue. We look at some jobs sometimes that are very large, and maybe those jobs aren't for us, and they're
Sure.
for a larger scaled company depending on how many guys we have.
Yeah, that's great. So what niche have you found to be successful in for yourself? You mentioned that some of the jobs just aren't worth it. They're too big or they're not to your skill set. What makes sense for you and your business?
For Brandon Blais Electric, we're more of a service-based residential company. We like to do a lot of either small remodels, panel changes, landscape lighting jobs. We even get into generators, portable generators as well. So it's mainly service-based is what we like to do. We do everything. We have got into commercial buildings as well, even in some industrial type stuff. But really our forte, I think, is residential service.
Well, for those people that are looking to get started being an electrician or starting the trade, what advice would you give them, besides acquiring the knowledge, licensing and things like that? How should they start their business?
Just making sure that you're consistent. making sure that you show up to your job when you say you're going to show up, and when you tell somebody that you're going to do something a certain way or at a certain time, is that you fulfill those needs.
When you're getting started being an electrician, a lot of the questions that people ask is how much money can I make? What would someone starting off being an electrician expect to make as a beginner, and where can they end up at years down the road?
Sure, even a helper right now could start at $15 an hour.
Okay.
As long as somebody is willing to learn and really willing to get out there and pay attention to materials and the way things are done, we tend to do the same type of things over and over. So once somebody picks up on that, they can really just take off from there. Once you start learning materials and the way that we do things, then of course you want to get paid more money. It's very easily to make more. A qualified electrician can make upwards of $20 to $30 an hour.
Okay.
So it just depends on how much education and how much either schooling or how many years in the trade that they have. So the rate just keeps going up and up right now. I mean, the more education you have and the more years in the field is how much you're going to be paid.
Are you looking to start a new business or to grow an existing business? If so, check out the Heavy Ape course, which shows contractors and tradesmen how to grow a business that generates millions of dollars per year. We'll put a link in the description below. Well, and a lot of people tell us that it's hard to find competent tradesmen right now, whether it be self-employed or even working for other businesses. So what does the future look like for electricians? So if I was going to start out and be an electrician right now, does it look like there'll be a lot of jobs into the future for me?
There's going to be a ton of jobs. The need for electricians will never go away. The average electrician right now is about 41 years old, so we need some younger people in the trade, somebody who's able to start at a young age and work their way up. Takes a lot of critical thinking as well, to troubleshoot some of the issues and stuff out there. And we really need a young mind, somebody who's going to start young and be able to, develop the skills over the years.
So that's what the future for the industry in general. What does the future look like for Brandon Blais Electric?
Brandon Blais Electric is always going to be growing. We're always trying to stay on top of the latest technologies and the trades. We're always looking for people who want to start in the electrical industry and really stick with it and make a good career, make good money.
Well, we're standing here on a property and the rain has finally let up a little bit. Can you show us some of the work that you've done around the area here on this job?
Absolutely. This particular property started pretty much bare. We had asked the customer what his needs were and expectations of this property, not only for now, but maybe even into the future.
Okay.
The way that we lay jobs out, you can be very cost effective, or it can cost you more money if you don't lay them out the right way.
Right.
So we started with the service down here on the middle of the property, and that's a 400 amp service. So it's plenty of power to be able to do a lot of things. A standard home, is typically 200 amps. We wanted to make sure we had more than enough power.
Nice.
The customer wanted to start out with a small portion, and then ended up wanting to expand the buildings on the property. So we had the power available. We have a couple different panels on this property. We have the main electrical service. We have another panel inside of a metal building for a gym. And we have another panel in this outdoor kitchen for little hangout area.
Nice.
We also have power for well pumps and different things like that, and maybe some RV hookups. We have power so the customer can bring an RV out here, plug it in, get ready for a trip, or hang out here on the property.
And you mentioned some of the challenges on this job were some of the longer runs and things like that. What did you encounter out here that was challenging?
Mainly when you're running long runs for electricity, you want to make sure that you have the wire and stuff sized correctly. If you're running very large wire for a long distance, you want to make sure that at the end of the run, the wire is able to handle what electricity that you put on it. So as well as trying to keep it cost effective.
Sure.
The price of wire and material and everything is up, so you don't want to oversize and overcharge the customer, but you don't want to undercut yourself as well and not have the needs that you need for the property.
Make sure you're future proof a little bit on it.
Absolutely.
So Brandon, can you tell us a little bit about this box here?
Sure, this is an outdoor sub panel. We fed it with 125 amps, so we had plenty of power for an outside summer kitchen and as well as some future power.
Nice.
These boxes on the side here are low voltage transformers. Some are for landscape lighting and also some down lighting inside the summer kitchen.
Okay.
This box here actually also provides power over to an RV hookup and a well pump and even a backup generator.
So Brandon, can you tell us a little bit about this electrical meter?
This electrical meter is actually called a meter main. This is a meter for FP&L to be able to read the power, as well as some breakers with the main breakers included in it. This is a 400 amp. So initially you have two separate 200 amp services put together to create a lot of power for this property. Some of these breakers here include the building to the south, and then also the summer kitchen down the road. So this panel originates from the transformer in the middle of the property.
All right.
And the power has come in from the power company at the front of the property, which is initially a quarter-mile long on this 10-acre property. We set this 400 amp electrical service in the middle of the property, so it would reduce the amount of wire that is needed to be able to extend from one side to the other. This is more of a cost savings than putting it up at the front of the property and having to run very large wires to get power to the back of the property. So what we did, we had set a transformer in the middle of the property to supply power to this, and then branches out from here evenly on both sides.
Brandon, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're very welcome, thank you.
Appreciate it.